My name is Chinman, and today I'm supposed to be saying my speech about children in war.
Good, good. So I think this should work. Interpreters, if you have any issues following Maya's voice, please let us know and we try to fix it. Maria Lucia, are you there? Hi, Fred. Welcome. Hi, Mustafa. Hi, Hussein.
Hello, Onela.
Welcome, everyone. We will
Hi,
start in
hi.
4 minutes. Can you please just say hi, and that way we also test audio from your end?
Yeah, hi. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Thank you for joining. Mustafa?
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Great, thank you. Fred, can you hear us?
Hey, hi everybody. I hope I'm loud enough.
Wonderful.
Great.
Wonderful. Maria Lucia, are you there? I'm sure she's somewhere around. Anand is here. Welcome, Anand. How are you?
Thank you. I'm very well. Thank you very much, Onela. Good to be with all of you.
Thank you, Anand, for joining. Maria Lucia is back in the room. Hi, Maria Lucia, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm sorry I was kicked out twice, but I hope I will remain. Thank you, and good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Very nice to see you. Hey, Philip, Anand, Volodymyr, very nice to see you all, and Chinmay and Anaya.
Shimaya, thank you. Just before we launch, because we see messages from the interpreters, Shimaya, we perhaps it's too late to get a microphone if you don't have a headset at hand. But try to perhaps when you speak to like speak a little bit louder or closer to the mic so that the interpreters can follow through properly. Thank you very much. Okay, so I think over to Eleonora, the moderator, the MC for today's session, and thank you all for joining. Over to you, Eleonora.
Thank you, Ornella. And are we starting? Is it?
We have 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will just signal when we start, and then you can take on the starting mode, Eleonora.
Yes, thank you, Suchit, and thank you, everyone. I don't know all of you, but I hope we'll get to introduce each other soon, and I'm very grateful for you all to be here with us today.
Okay, we are going to start.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I will allow a few seconds as people, I believe, are joining in. But first of all, I would like to welcome all of you and to bring to you all warmest greeting of peace and also much gratitude for joining and for taking the time to being with us today on this online gathering. As you know, you have joined this gathering that is part of the Stand Up campaign for children in war. And it is very much a campaign that is a mobilization for communities and is a mobilization centered on consciousness, hope, and on ethical responses. Today, we are here to take a moment with many who are contributing to build a safer and a hopeful and unconscious world for children. And we will hear from many practitioners, from children, from peacemakers, faith actors, and civil society actors that are here to share with us. But before we start, I would like to welcome all of you and I would like to invite us all to stand together with one voice for children in war. And before we start, let us start with a minute of silence for all the victims of war, for all the children that have been victims of war. Let us be in silence for a minute. Thank you. To welcome you here today and to get us started, I'm very pleased to invite for the opening remarks Mr. Hironari Miyamoto, that will be joining us from Japan, where it is very late, with a video message. Mr. Hironari Miyamoto comes from the Myochikai Buddhist community and is also a board member of Arigato International. Mr. Hironari Miyamoto, please, the floor is yours.
Dear partners, GNRC members, children, and friends, it is a great honor to join you today for this global gathering, marking the culmination of the Stand Up for Children in War campaign. First of all, on behalf of Arigato International and Myochikai, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of you for sharing our grave concern for children and joining this campaign in response to our call. Peace is often referred to as the absence of war, but true peace is far more than that. Peace is the presence of justice, equity, inclusion, and dignity for all, particularly for children. Arigato International is dedicated to creating a better environment for children, where they can grow up safe and sound. We believe that by creating such an environment, we can build a peaceful world in a true sense. At the heart of our reflections are children and young people. They are not only the most vulnerable victims of war, but also agents of peace. Their resilience, creativity, and voices remind us of the world we must strive to build. When we create spaces and opportunities for children to be heard, to participate, and to dream, we are planting the seeds of peace for future generations. But children also need protection when their lives and future are jeopardized. And this campaign is a reminder of our responsibility for them. The campaign has shown us the power of solidarity. When faith leaders raise their moral moral voices, when communities act in unity, when individuals awaken their conscience, we ignite hope for real change. Let us remember, each of us, wherever we are, can make a difference. Every act of compassion, every word of healing and solidarity, every effort to protect human dignity contributes to peace. Violence begins in the human heart, but so does peace. Today, as we come together in consciousness and hope, let us commit ourselves once again to protect every child's rights to live in safety and peace. Together, across faiths, nations, and communities, let us come together with courage and compassion to stand up for children in war and to build a world where peace is not only imagined but lived. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miyamoto. And you said it, at the heart of our reflections are children as victims, but also as agents of peace with their creativity and with their voice. So I would like to leave the floor now to Anania and Chimayan, to their voice, to their creativity, and to their acts of solidarities. Anania and Chimayan, the floor is yours, please.
Hi everyone. I just want to say that I can see and I feel and I think that if a group of adults can disengage from their values and engage in war, can't a bigger group of adults find peace and stand up for us children? And I also remember the time in 2015 in Nepal. There was this big earthquake, and we were in Delhi. And I remember we were having tremors, and we packed this bag, and we would run out of the apartment whenever we saw the fans shaking or something like that. And but we were safe. Nothing happened in Delhi. They were just tremors, small tremors. But that fear of losing everything and living with that one bag we packed, that was so much. And I still, when I see something shaking, I'm reminded to that. And from that experience, I just can't even imagine what the children in war might have been going through and have gone through, are going through. And I recall the letter we wrote in 2023 in Mumbai, the World Day of Prayer and Action. We need to prioritize children, and we all deserve a better, peaceful society. And we all need to stand up for children in war. Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity, everyone.
Thank you, Anania, and thank you for really calling us adults to find peace first within ourselves and then to stand up for you. And also thank you for reminding us about what fears means. And 2015 was 10 years ago, but you can still remember what it means to fear, the fear of loss, the fear of shaking, and how this can affect you, and how how the children in war might be feeling. So thank you also for that reminder of these long-lasting consequences of this trauma in children. And I think, I mean, it is we really owe it to children to keep keeping us accountable, to keep maybe shouting at us, to stand up for you, because maybe sometimes we forget, and this is why we do what we do. Thank you, Anania, for these powerful words, and thank you for also reminding us of the letter that you all children wrote in 2022 during the day of prayer and action. Chimayan, good evening, and thank you for staying up so late.
Thank you. Hello everyone. My name is Chinmay. In 2023, I had an opportunity to write a letter to the India's Prime Minister about stopping war. And today I am going to be building upon that letter by talking about how war affects children. As I speak, there are numerous wars that are taking place. These wars do not only affect adults, but they also affect children. Every single day, these children wake up to the sounds of sirens instead of school bells. They live in shelters, not bedrooms. They hold trauma, not toys. But they didn't start the wars, did they? They didn't draw the borders, did they? Yet, after all this, they still pay the highest price, and that is sacrificing their childhood. They lose their family, home, and sometimes even their own lives. Why should we choose conflict over compassion? Aren't we the ones who claim that we are far more superior and developed than other species? So we must ask ourselves, what kind of superior beings lets their innocent suffer the most? This is a message to the leaders of nations, those who sit at the tables of power, every single government and every single decision maker. We demand peace. It is not a weakness, and it certainly does not mean to surrender. Peace refers to courage, and courage only. Courage that is harder to build than to break. And if you truly care about the future, we are the future. In that hopeful future, all the energy used to demolish will be used to create. Imagine if all that energy was used to build schools, protect nature, or create opportunities. Childhood is joy, not survival. We may be small, but our voices are strong. Let us stop fighting and start healing. Let children live, let children dream, and let there be peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Chimayan. I think I cannot say it with a stronger voice than yours, with a more courageous voice than yours. And indeed, it is about joy over survival, and it is about thriving. And again, thank you for your powerful letter to stand in solidarity with children in war from children of India, and very much taking the courage to write to the Prime Minister to really remind about the suffering and how children are suffering now the highest prices of war. Thank you, Chimayan. And I think I will move now to maybe the official welcome remarks from Geneva, the city of peace, the city of human rights and humanitarian law. And I might ask my colleague Maria Lucia Uribe, the executive director of the Arigato International Geneva, to take the floor. Over to you, Maria Lucia.
Thank you so much, and dear friends, and thank you for joining us today, and thank you to Anania and Chinmay for these powerful words, for reminding us our obligations as adults to protect you, to create a world that is safe, a world that is peaceful, and also to remind us that you keep telling us this, and we keep failing to protect you. And I think that is important, because this campaign, Stand Up for Children in War, was born out of our ethical responsibility, but also out of moral courage, to stand up, to break the silence, to say to the world that 473 million children are living in conflict zones, and they need to be protected. That it's not fair that they continue living in fear, and that their childhoods are shattered because of the responsibilities and the words that we human beings, adults, have created. So I want to thank all the partners that joined this campaign. We had 33 partners that came together to develop this campaign. I want to thank the many children from the JNRC and other partners that shared with us their voices, their videos, the many religious leaders, heads of organizations, UN agencies that also share with us their contributions standing up for children and for peace. I also want to thank the 145 organizations, UN agencies, and members of the Committee on the Rights of the Child and former members of the Committee on the Rights of the Child for endorsing the joint statement that will be presented today at the end, where we come together and we call our consciousness, we call out our responsibility to stand up for children in war with the commitment to build a better world for children. I don't want to say more. I think there is a lot that will be said in our meeting today. I just want to thank you on behalf of Arigato International for standing up together, for coming together today in unity, and to raise awareness about the impact of war on children, but also to ignite hope. And hope is much needed today. And I hope that this gathering today is going to help us to come together in a more united voice, but also with concrete actions that can create a better world for children. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria Lucia. And you said it's not about choices, it's about obligations. And many of those obligations are contained in the Convention of the Rights of the Child. And the guardians of the Conventions of the Right of the Child, Philippe Jaffé, if you allow me to say so, is really the Committee of the Right of the Child. So over to you for some short welcome remarks today as well, Philippe.
So thank you very much, and greetings from the Committee on the Rights of the Child. You know, children should never be made to carry the weight of war, yet across too many places, shattered by conflict, that they lose homes, they lose safety, they lose limbs, parents, they lose the simple joy of belonging. And childhood should be a sacred ground, yet we desecrate it with armed conflict. Humanity, I think, and you think, is meant to be better than this. And to let children bleed for the follies of adults is a regression into callousness, a betrayal of the very moral compass that makes us who we are. The most insidious damage is not physical, it is not psychological trauma. When I listen to some young people, I hear something chilling. We cannot trust adults. They see governments acting with impunity, leaders shielded by other leaders, wars waged without restraint, and children and their families left unprotected. They watch cruelty televised and excused, and they wonder, if this is how the world works, why should we care more than adults? This erosion of trust is, in my opinion, the silent contagion of ongoing wars. It is the spillover that maims not just bodies, but moral growth of the next generation. And there is a deeper danger still, that children will begin to identify with the aggressor. To cope with helplessness, they may seek strength in cynicism, in hardness, in detachment. If youth turn away from compassion because adults have failed to model it, we will not have just lost individual lives. We will have forfeited the very future of empathy and trust. I am trying to share a warning, not a lamentation. War traumatizes not just bodies, but spirits. It breeds cynicism, it kills hope, and dulls the soul. If we do not change course, we risk raising a generation alienated from caring, distanced from morality, numbed to suffering. The future itself grows perilous when empathy and the desire for justice wither. So I call on you, let's grow back a spine. We must stand up for war, for children in war. And with that, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Philip. And I think this is also a call for us when we talk about ethical reflection and what we call about the ethical obligation. It's very much about rediscovering the joy of belonging and the joy of building positive relationships that are strengthened every day, that are strengthened by example, that are strengthened by care, that are strengthened by being together. And all of this is shattered when there is no trust and where there are erosion of relationships between children and adults. So thank you for these warnings and these reminders. And this also calls us to think that we can do better, because this is also where our resilience is, or where we can learn from the past, we can rebound and rebuild. And I think on this note, I would like to pass the floor to my colleague and moderator, Dr. Mustafa Ali, the Secretary General of the Global Network of Religions for Children, for the next segment of this dialogue that really will bring the voices of all those actors that are working to stand up and to protect for children in conflict zones. So Dr. Mustafa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eleonora, and colleagues, friends, members of the GNRC partners. Today we are here to commemorate the International Day of Peace on very somber note, at a time when close to 500 million children are now living in conflict zones. Up to 48.8 million children have been displaced as we speak. And even as we talk about these statistics, we are talking about many wars, new wars that have been launched, and you can see the aggression on children, and therefore the standing up campaign, standing up for children in war. Necessarily, we are demanding for an end to all wars around the world. The United Nations General Assembly is going on in New York at the moment, and we are watching, children are watching, as Anania and Chinamay spoke about adults that seems to have lost their moral compass, values, and we can see at the United Nations, some are just talking about or don't even mean what they are talking about. And the future generations, the children of the world, will always remember you, will remember me, if we stood up for them. And if we don't, they will remember us as that generation without a moral compass, without a moral spine, as moral cowards that did not stand up to them when they were suffering this much. And we are joined by a distinguished panel of practitioners, leaders, children that are going to focus on and hear from them voices from the grassroots, particularly in conflict zones. And may I introduce Ms. Frederick Jean-Baptiste, Head of Education, Child Protection and Youth, Catholic Relief Services in Haiti. Also joining us is Ms. Despina Namwembe, Regional Coordinator, United Religions Initiative, Africa, the Great Lakes. Mr. Ricardo Treno, Humanitarian Volunteer, Brazil, from Northern Brazil, Fraternity International Humanitarian Missions. Also joining us is Mr. Ayed Abu Iktaish, Accountability Program Director from DCI Palestine. Ms. Opos Risuwan, Project Manager International, Network of Engaged Buddhists, and GNRC Thailand. And Mr. Roger Salame, Coordinator for GNRC Palestine. I will start with you, Frederick. Drawing from your organization's experience, in particular context of war and violent conflicts, what are the most urgent needs you see in relation to children's protection and well-being?
Thank you. Good morning. Well, it's morning on my side of the globe. I'm joining from Port-au-Prince, Haiti. It's really thank you for this opportunity to speak today. And I'm joining from Port-au-Prince, Haiti. I work with Catholic Relief Services, or CRS. And in Haiti, we've been present for over 70 years, providing emergency response and development actions in support of vulnerable populations. And currently in Haiti, we are going through a multi-layered humanitarian crisis that is driven by armed group violence, political instability, and displacement. And this ongoing violence continues to impact everyday life for most Haitians, with roadblocks, airport closures, reducing access to essential goods and services. And gangs are now controlling more than 85% of Port-au-Prince, which is the capital of Haiti, and it is expanding into other regions. All of us know on this call here, on this event, we know that children, we've heard from Ananya and Chinmay, and we can see how children are often the first to be affected by humanitarian crises due to several factors, including their inherent vulnerability due to their age and their development stages. And here in Haiti as well, we're seeing the same thing. This crisis has a devastating impact on Haitian children. Armed groups are increasingly recruiting minors, and according to the United Nations, up to half of gang members may be children. So they are exposed to extreme violence and exploitation and trauma. Just recently, as of June 2025, nearly 1.3 million people in Haiti are internally displaced. And that represents 11% of Haiti's population. But over half of those displaced folks, they are children. So it is heartbreaking what is going on, not just in Haiti, and we hear in the news and we are witness to what's going on here. On our side in CRS and other global partners present in Haiti, we try to be present to make sure that folks are heard. And it's interesting how it's just creating the time really, and creating the time to be present, to be consistent. And this is the most powerful intervention it often begins with listening. On our side with CRS Haiti, we have a team of psychosocial support psychologists who provide psychosocial support directly to families in need. But we also make sure that to connect with the government and state leaders so we can have training, psychological first aid training, so they can help respond to all the trauma and everything that we're seeing. And we know we will keep on seeing the repercussion of this trauma for the next few years.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Frederick. And let me move on to Ms. Despina Namwembe. What message or call to action do you believe organizations working in this context should elevate more strongly? And can you share a moment or lesson from your work that challenged your organization to think differently about the role of faith in humanitarian or peace-building efforts?
Thank you so much, Dr. Mustafa. So today I had written certain things to share here, but then a lady today came into our office with a child and was rescued from the DR Congo, was taken there, was lied to that they were going for jobs. And then he was radicalized and became one of the killers. And she was telling me stories, and one of the stories is that her child, in order for them to harden her, they had to tell her to kill her by hitting the child on the tree trunk because this child couldn't stop crying. And as she's telling me this story, she's like, I was rescued, I'm back here, and now I'm being threatened because the children that we give birth to are supposed to be taken back to fight. And I'm being threatened because those children are supposed to be taken, the ones that I have to be taken back. And then she's saying that she needs help because even the community where she is, their integration program wasn't done well. the children that she has are being called rebel children. So the stigma around these children is just so much. I work for the United Religions Initiative, and I know that our faith communities call us to look for the good, but at the same time to build the cultures of peace across, faith traditions, but also communities and societies at the same time. And when I listen to such stories, I'm looking at the media not necessarily capturing some of those stories, as today we are so much into Palestine and Israel, that the stories of so many refugees coming in from the DR Congo because of this protracted conflict that continues to go on, and the refugees that come, and the majority are children and women. And I'm like, this also should make some kind of headlines somewhere. And when I regard to organize such platforms for us to share grassroots stories in partnership with the other partners, URI and all the other partners, I'm so thrilled, because then we are able to share these stories and even hear like what my sister is sharing, which is not necessarily heard all the time, because the media kind of shares a different narrative. They're interested in a different narrative and not necessarily our stories that are so grassroots based. I think my call would be, can we continue to share the grassroots stories in the raw form that they are, and allow spaces where those stories can be shared by other people to know what is really happening, and not somebody to share those stories in their own way of sharing. And one of the ways is here, but also we need this to be carried forward to even bigger platforms where people can understand the story of this woman, but also the story of other women that are struggling the same way, the story of the refugees who are struggling because of the cut-off of the USAID support and other partners' support, where refugees now can't even afford meals, basic things like meals. They can't afford for their children to be in schools, because before those children were going into medium schools. Right now they can't. So how can we have that shared globally for people to understand the stories that are grassroots, but at the same time making a lot of sense, and that humanity is able to live in peace? And for me, that is really, really important.
Thank you very much. We are also joined by Hossein Shahid, Programs Manager, Humanitarian Crisis Response from the Islamic Relief in Bangladesh, and we will be hearing from Hossein shortly. I want to move on to Ricardo Treno from Brazil. Ricardo, share with us your experiences working in northern Brazil, and what advice do you have to leaders, faith communities, grassroots actors, when it comes to the voices of children and highlighting those voices from grassroots? Ricardo.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. We'd like to share with all of you a little bit of our experience with the indigenous populations of Venezuela. And we also wanted to share with you our path with them. We got to know as an institution during the migratory crisis of 2016 in our actions in northern Brazil. And alongside the migrants from Venezuela, there were indigenous population that were fleeing as well. Many of them were already expelled from their original territories in Venezuela. So they arrive in Brazil through land with a high degree of vulnerability and the loss of cultural identity. And even though these people were not fleeing from a war zone or an armed conflict, we are talking about children who are growing up in refugee shelters. They are being born in these shelters. And these children, they had no agency in their parents' decision to leave their country. So being indigenous, being a child, indigenous child, and a refugee child, a minority within a minority within a minority, several levels of vulnerability. And I say minority, but in a shelter with 600 people, at least half of them were children and teenagers. So they had a voice, whether we recognize it or not. They were active, they were there. And after a few years of humanitarian response, we realized as an organization that the shelters were not the solution. So after a diagnosis with the population, we created the Indigenous Cultural and Training Center. At the beginning, and even now, it is centered on the indigenous people from Venezuela, even though gradually it started to include other nationalities. So in the center, we offer technical courses, different types of capacity building to help them find a job. We help them learn some skills, how to start their own businesses, how to behave in a job interview, how to make their own resume, everything they needed. And even though we are focusing on adults, we cannot ignore that these adults that we are training are parents, they are mothers and fathers. And this is especially true with indigenous peoples because they have such a deep group-oriented nature. So we soon realized that creating space safes for the children while the parents were receiving training was absolutely essential. So it started to walk side by side. As you can see, we always believe that picture is worth more than words now. So we wanted to show how things went side by side. And what started to happen is when other groups from other indigenous people from Brazil, Suriname, French Guiana started to come to the center, they started to exchange cultural knowledge and cultural wisdom. And this was so important because it promoted the continued transmission of cultural identity from one generation to the next. During the migratory movement, this identity, which is the heritage of all these children, is just as vulnerable as they are. So we had this challenge to prepare them for the future, giving them tools to prepare for the future, and not letting their past disappear in the process during the migratory movement. So in a very spontaneous way, well, other groups started to attend the center. They started to exchange their histories, their knowledge. We created spaces for the elders of the groups to share what they learn, their crafts. And in a non-planned way, this helped to prepare them to face their new lives in a new land without forgetting their roots. So I think that these cultural spaces where they are the protagonists was the answer we found. No? And hopefully they can keep going and become more active there. Don't know if I answer your question.
Yes, you did, and thank you. We'll be circling back again to you and the other panelists. But now we'll move on to Palestine. And without doubt, Palestine today is the epicenter of a rather aggressive war on the people of Palestine, and especially Gaza, where thousands of children have lost their lives, have been injured. And I have two panelists from Palestine. And I'll start with Mr. Ayed before coming to you, Rogers Salame. And Mr. Ayed, can you share with us the most urgent needs that we need to highlight for the children that are caught in the war, whether in Gaza or in the West Bank, and what your advice would be to faith leaders, political leaders alike, to help the children in Palestine come from this disaster?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Palestinian children in order to reflect their experiences that they are passing through, especially during this very difficult period. In fact, Palestinian children are in need for everything because they are deprived of everything. So all their rights are violated on the hands of the Israeli occupation forces. This issue didn't start just 2 years ago when Israel launched its aggression against Gaza Strip. Since the beginning of the Israeli occupation to the Palestinian territories, Israel is violating the rights of Palestinian children on daily basis. So their rights are their right to life is violated. For example, during the period between the year 2000 until October 2023, DCI documented the killing of 2,300 Palestinian children in the occupied Palestinian territories. Many children are arrested and prosecuted in the Israeli military legal system that lacks fair trial guarantees. There is attack for their right to education, health care. But what happened since the start of the Israeli genocide against Palestinian children, it's beyond our imagination. We didn't even imagine that the brutality of the Israelis could reach this stage. Since the start of the genocide until now, more than 18,000 Palestinian children have been killed. Tens of thousands of Palestinian children have been injured, and they have permanent disability. Many Palestinian children during this period, their limbs were amputated because of the health situation in Gaza, mainly in Gaza Strip, because the Israeli authorities and the Israeli occupation target Palestinian hospitals in Gaza, Palestinian schools, and even Palestinian homes. Now we are speaking about more than 1 million Palestinian children who are displaced. Some of them were displaced for tens of times because they are moving from one place to another place. And the last massive displacement is taking place now because Israel wants to evacuate Gaza City from its Palestinians and force them to move to the southern part of Gaza Strip. And this is the first step to concentrate them in that area under the pretext that these are the safe zones. But through our experience with the Israeli occupation forces, there is no safe place in Gaza Strip. And this is reflected from the what Palestinian children are sharing with us as a child right organization. So at the time being, we are doing a research with Maastricht University, where we ask Palestinian children about their rights amidst this situation. Almost all Palestinian children said or informed us that all their rights are violated, their rights are destroyed, they are suffering from the lack of food, water, shelter, houses. Now, many children lost their limbs. They pass through operation with no antithesis. So this is because the Israeli occupation forces target the hospitals and prevented humanitarian aid from reaching Palestinian people in Gaza Strip. So far, 150 Palestinian children were died as a result of famine. And despite all these fatalities, Israel is continuing to prevent aid from entering to people in Gaza in order to put more pressure on Palestinians in Gaza in order to leave Gaza Strip and to build settlement on the ruins of Palestinian cities in Gaza. In the shadow of what's going on Gaza, Israel is violating Palestinian children in the West Bank. Since October 2023 until now, we documented the killing of 214 Palestinian children in the West Bank. Still, Israel is detaining, ill-treating, torturing Palestinian children who are arrested by the Israeli authorities. The majority of Palestinian children who are arrested are placed under administrative detention orders, which is a form of arbitrary detention against Palestinian children. And these administrative detention order for the duration of 6 months, and these 6 months could be renewed indefinitely. Palestinian children now inside Israeli prisons are totally disconnected from the outside world. There is no family visits. Lawyer visits are very restricted. In addition to that, they do not receive any information about what's going outside because they do not have radios or newspapers or televisions. I believe that the Palestinian children are in need for protection and in need for the intervention of the international community to uphold the international human rights law and international humanitarian law, because Israel do not care about all international standards when it comes to the rights of Palestinian children, despite the fact that Palestinian children or despite the fact that Israel is state party to the CRC and other human rights conventions, but systematically it violates all these standards and keep violating the rights of Palestinian children. And the problem that there is no accountability for all these practices, and what's needed now to stop the genocide against Palestinian children in Gaza. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ayed, for sharing with us, and we'll come back to you later on. Let me bring in Roger Salame, coming in from Bethlehem in Palestine. Rogers is the GNRC coordinator for Palestine. Rogers, you are obviously living in a region, in a country, in a state that has undergone unprecedented challenges. From Bethlehem, you obviously are getting news daily, children being pulled out of the rubble, dead, some injured, and the incursions into the territories where you are. Can you share with us your experiences and what children are going through there? And secondly, obviously, trust is being affected between communities. How, in such an intense conflict with such intense violence, how do you build trust eventually when this conflict ends? We can't hear you, Rogers.
Thank you, Dr. Mustafa. I will try to be to the point in Arabic. I will make the presentation. So بداية بدي أشكر أريجاتو على هالمبادرة الرائعة، وأنا بتشرف إني أمثل بلد فلسطين وأحكي عن الخطأ اللي إحنا عايشين فيها. فإحنا بنحكي إنه الحرب مش مقتصرة فقط على غزة، ولكن هي الحرب موجودة كمان على الضفة. ومؤخرا أكيد الكل سمع بمخطط الإي1، مشروع إي1. وأنا ما بدي أتحدث عن غزة لأنه كلنا مدركين حجم المأساة والمعاناة والدمار والتجويع والمذابح وكل شيء برتكب بحق شعبنا، وبالذات خصوصا الأطفال. أطفالنا في الضفة بيعيشوا تحت واقع الاحتلال الفلسطيني من خلال موجات العنف المتكررة والاجتياحات اليومية لمدن وقرى الضفة والمخيمات. وهذا الشيء، هذه الممارسات اليومية اللي بتعرض لها الأطفال بتصعب عليهم حياتهم بتصعب عليهم حياتهم، وبصير في عندهم صعوبة في التنقل والوصول لمدارسهم، وخصوصا في المناطق اللي هي مناطق التماس. عدا على ذلك كمان المشاكل والحالات النفسية والصدمات اللي بيتعرضوا لها نتيجة الاجتياحات، إطلاق النار، التير غاز. وهذا إشي كمان بيتعرض له مش بس الأطفال، وهذا إشي كمان بيتعرض له بل بتعرض له كل جميع شرائح المجتمع، وخصوصا الاعتقالات والممارسات والإذلال اللي بتصير خلال التنقل في الضفة الغربية. فأنا ب... فأنا بتصور وبنظري إنه الحاجة الضرورية بالوقت الراهن للأطفال هي الأمن والأمان. لأنه الأمن والأمان مش بس فقط من الأذى الجسدي، بل أيضا من الجروح النفسية العميقة اللي بيسببها كل هذه الانتهاكات. وخصوصا من الخوف والصدمة والتوتر والقلق والعزلة، وبالتحديد خسارة الإنسان. هذه هي الصدمة الكبيرة اللي مش بالسهل إنه يتم تجاوزها. وكمان امبارح للأسف يعني شفت فيديو لحدث في غزة. آه، طفل طفل بيحمل ابن عمه الطفل اللي عمره 4 سنين، مستشهد بين أحضانه حامله، وبده يبعته على his cousin 4 سنين من عائلة مسعود، وهو مصدوم بيبكي وبترجع بقول له اصحى، مش قادر يصدق اللي صار. فعشان هيك أنا بالوقت الراهن بآمن إنه أطفالنا بحاجة ماسة إلى الدعم النفسي والاجتماعي ليقدروا هم قال ما في إنه يوقفوا على رجليهم، ويستعيدوا ثقتهم في نفسهم ويتطلعوا للمستقبل بجانب مشرق. وبالوقت الراهن حاليا فعليا شبابنا وأطفالنا وحتى الأهالي في عمالهم بيفكروا بموضوع الهجرة، وهو مشكلة كبيرة. فإحنا على سبيل المثال في GNRC فلسطين نعمل على استقبال الأطفال والإصغاء إليهم، مش نستمع لهم، نصغي إليهم ونعطيهم المحبة والاحترام والثقة بالنفس. وهذا الشيء بيصير وبيتم من خلال الغنى، الرقص، الرسم التعبيري، اللعب، التفريغ العاطفي. لأنه في كثير ناس أطفال ما بيحكوا، ما في عندهم تواصل، عايشين في الصدمة، ما بيقدروا يطلعوا ويتغلبوا على هاي الصدمة. فبشغلنا بنركز على مفهوم الصمود والتجثر كأسلوب حياة بيعمل على تطوير شخصيات ومهارات الأطفال. وهذا الشيء بيتم من خلال الورشات الصيفية اللي احنا بنعملها، ومن خلال احتضان الأطفال في جميع نشاطاتنا وفعالياتنا. ولما احنا نعززهم في هذه الأدوات، أطفالنا بيقدروا يتغلبوا ويقدروا هم يبنوا مستقبل مشرق لبلادهم. ويتغلبوا على هذه كل المحن والشدائد. وحابب أوجه كمان رسالتي للمنظمات العاملة في هذه السياقات. يعني احنا ما بيكفينا انه بس نستجيب لحالات الطوارئ، بل انه لازم احنا كمان بل احنا نستثمر ايضا كمان في بناء السلام على المدى الطويل. وفي اي قرار وفي أي قرار من القرارات يجب أنه دائما نحط المصلحة الأولى هي مصلحة الطفل. وما يكفي بس فقط الحماية الجسدية، بل أنه الاستثمار في الصحة النفسية والاجتماعية للأطفال. من خلال تمكينهم من خلال تمكينهم في التعبير عن أنفسهم، ودعمهم ومشاركتهم في صنع القرارات، وضمان تعليم وضمان استمرار التعليم في بيئة آمنة. وعلى المستوى المحلي والدولي كمان حلو انه نرفع اصواتهم، يكونوا هم شركاء في بناء مستقبلهم بكرامة. وبأكد كمان مرة انه الاستثمار في برنامج التعافي الطويلة الأمد هو الطريق للسلام الحقيقي. وأود أن أختم في رسالة توجيهية مقتبسة من أحد الشباب عندنا في شغلنا. بالنص الحرفي بيحكي: يجب على الشعوب ورجال الدين ورؤساء دول العالم إيقاف جميع الحروب والنزاعات على هذه الكوكب، وليس فقط في الضفة وفي غزة، على هذا الكوكب، وحماية الأطفال من المخاطر، وإعادة بناء العالم ليعود كما كان وأفضل مما كان، لتستمر البشرية بسلام. وأن الاستثمار والتنمية والتطوير أفضل من الاستثمار في السلاح والقتل والدمار. نحن بشر ولنحافظ على الحياة البشرية لأننا أغلى شيء على هذا الكوكب. شكرا لكم، يعطيكم العافية. شكرا دكتور مصطفى.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rogers, from Bethlehem, for sharing with us. We move on to a region in the Far East, in Thailand, and we are joined by GNRC coordinator in Thailand, Miss Oppo Srisuwan. Miss Oppo, you are also living with and working in and on conflicts that are in your neighborhood, in particular in Myanmar, and children have been affected a great deal. Maybe you can reflect with us about the resilience that we actually see young people from that part of the world, and how they are able to keep hope alive in Thailand, in Myanmar, and the region.
Hi, สวัสดีค่ะ I'm Oppo from Thailand, and it is evening here, so good evening, everyone. It is very hard to put my head together after listening to our friends and we're the last to speak. So just want to say that we can see the resilience every day in the children. You look to the eyes of one that next to you, you see them the eye that spark with hope, and I just like to this is not in my script, but I just like to tell our friend from Palestine that when we conduct the sessions with the children that affected by war from Myanmar, we also use one of the video that was produced by I think the local medias. The question was, what is your dream? So that's about what is your dream when asking the children from Palestine. So we use that and also to inspire the children that from Myanmar that we work with. So everywhere there is a resilience and hope. So the reflection of what the INEP team have experienced working with the children, that there's so many, but I will grab some. This is from the GNRC collaborations. Regardless of the religious or the age, all children have been affected by conflict. And especially in Myanmar, we learned that about 6.4 million children are in need of humanitarian support. If you heard of the earthquake, it even make the situation earthquake what happened on the 28th March. And a lot of people have lost their life. And on top of everything that this country have been through. So yes, and 1.3 million are internally displaced. And the countless number that seek support in Thailand. So that those we work with the children also in Myanmar and also along the border of Thailand and Myanmar. What we see is that through the collaboration with the GNRC, so we try to work interfaith amongst the Muslim communities and the Buddhist community. So this the initiative from our friends, our network, that in the Muslim community, the children are giving us an okay. So also they come up with the idea that every day they receive snack from one of the corporate shop. And so on Wednesday, every Wednesday, they will not have a snack or food that they normally receive. They would donate everything that they receive to the temple for the young boy that been ordained at the Norwich, at the young monk. So this is something that I would say that above the resilience, they also turn that they have so little, but they still share. So I think this is something that I learned from the children, that doesn't matter how much you have, as long as it's through your compassion. This is something that is count. So I hope that I answer what you have asked, Dr. Mustafa. Oh, and also another thing is that we try to work with the power within. If you have heard, everyone have a power within themselves, and the children have host a big power within, but so little with the power that they could change the policy. So I would think that we learn from them the power within, but as an adult, we should also use that power that we have to also stand up for children and with children. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Oppo. Thank you very much. That's Oppo from Thailand. And now joining us is Hussein from Bangladesh. Again, in that part of the world with the conflict going on, the displacement of the Rohingya population. Hussein, the floor is yours. Just take a minute or two to share with us what you have prepared for us today.
Okay. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Like Bangladesh is hosting almost 1.2 million refugees from Myanmar. And among half of that like population refugee, like 52% of the like this 1.2 million is like 600,000 are children. And like 195,000 born in Bangladesh in the refugee camp since 2017 to 2025. So the influx, they arrived basically 750,000 in 2027, but it's not stopped. In the last 6 months, another like 150,000 arrived, among which mostly the children and the women. This time we saw like another 67,000 children just arrived who are traumatized, who are like helpless, who don't have anything there. And like this whole 1.2 million population are staying in a temporary shelter. You could imagine like near about 700,000 people living in 13 square kilometers, and they are sharing a room 10 feet by 15 feet, which is not even proper shelter. So it's a like horrible situation in the refugee camps, Rohingya refugee camps. And like these children, they've gone without formal education for last 8 years. Yes, we provide education, but it's not the formal school approach and others. Then we couldn't include all children to the schools. And girls, they are actually absent from the, like at the age of 12. They are not continuing their school. And also like lack of skill, life skill and education here, and no prospects. They don't have any hopes, like whether they will be able to return back to their own country, and whether they will be having proper like shelter, education, and proper child development. That is, they don't have. It's like we are almost dealing with a lost generation, because they have already lost their 8 years. They who were born here in refugee camp and who came a very young stage. So there is a severe malnutrition inside the camps, though we are providing a lot of humanitarians are providing food and other services, but still, because there's a lack of dietary diversity and nutritious, rise in child marriage and forced adult marriage we saw recently because of insecurity. The family members, they think that if they give married, then their kids will be safe. And also, like it's not that they came with trauma or fear of war, but still there are armed struggle or like fighting within the camps and others. So this is a very horrible situation inside the camp. So they go sleep with fear. And also recently it is observed that there's a fear of abduction, child abduction, and getting money out of this ransom from this abduction and others. So that also restrict child to go outside. There is like lack of safe spaces, or lack of like mental support and others. And also like there are lack of essential services also. And in the situation like Islamic Relief, we are actually reaching almost approximately 300,000 refugees per year through our WASH, education, food assistance, and shelter support. And with education, what is that we are practicing here in Bangladesh, like the school, we are following the Myanmar curriculum. So with the hope that whenever they return back to their countries, so that they can continue their education or their livelihood in Myanmar. So we follow that curriculum. And also we are engaging, it's a community-led kind of education involving the Rohingya teachers to teach the kids there. Like we also provide protection and this psychosocial support. And also like we are trying, as we have limited resources, so we are trying to provide them more nutritious, like fortified rice, fortified biscuits in the school and classroom to have them additional nutrition and others. And we also like to engaging the social leader and the religious leader like imams and others in the awareness sessions so that they can raise awareness and aware the communities to stop the child marriage, then adult marriage, and also other social aspects. So this is also working nicely when the religious leader or faith leaders, they are speaking on these issues. And we have an advantage here, we also have faith-inspired organization, and the Rohingyas are from the Muslim communities. So we have a acceptability among the communities, and we are using that hope. But the way this protected crisis is going on, there is a drastic funding cut. We cannot provide the necessary services. At the other hand, the international donors and others, they are reducing the funds. So now we are trying to prioritizing the life-saving support, like food and things. So education, child protection, other aspects is reducing. So that is also a big challenge. Where Bangladesh, if you consider the economy of the Bangladesh, it is very difficult to feed and to address all needs of this 1.2 million population. So it's going to be a challenge. And also, we found that these youth, especially those who are out of school and those who are at the age between 14 to 18 years, they are being recruited.
We need to be concluding because of time.
Yeah. So these are the issues, and we need to work we need to actually consolidate our appeal and voices, engage the international community, and put pressure on the Myanmar to stop violence there. Because if they don't stop violence in Myanmar, people will be coming here. And also there should be a sustainable solution, repatriation to Myanmar or in the third countries to actually resolve the issues. Yeah, thank you. I will chip in if any questions is there.
Thank you, Hussein, for that very good presentation from Bangladesh. And I want to ask all of you, you can interact with the panelists on the chat. A number of you have been placing messages there from Shafiul Alam. I pray for all the children, just reading a few for you. I pray for all the children suffering around the world, especially in Gaza. Message from Canada, a message from Bushra Rahman to everyone. Situation of children in Gaza has become heartbreakingly familiar as images appear across our social media. Message from Abdurrahman Abdul Dahesh to everyone. We need Israel to commit to international law and stop the human rights abuses against the Palestinian people. Abdurrad to everybody. Salam from Palestine. Salam to all our friends. GNRC there. Protects you, or God protects all of you, and we are praying for you every day. Abdurrahman again. 20,000 children. This is, yes, Abdurrahman and the Ilham Nasser, 20,000 children killed in Gaza in 2 years. We have the largest amputee in modern history. And Ilham Nasser to everyone. First, we all need to speak up to stop the ethnic cleansing going on in Palestine, call for ending of the genocide Abdurrahman, a message also. We need to see more peace advocates from Gaza to Lebanon, Haiti, Congo, Sudan, Venezuela, Ethiopia, and many other places around the world. There are many of you that are typing in and sharing your messages with everybody. So, and I urge you to continue doing that and continue to interact on the chat. I will now. We have now come to the end, of our session. But before we finally conclude, I will hand you over to Eleonora, who is going to share with us 2 videos from 2 children. Back to you, Eleonora.
Thank you, Mustafa, and thank you everyone that joined in this segment for really sharing your voices. We have one video from Yara from Sudan that we would really like to share, but also I would like for you to go over the chat and to read the message of love and hope that came through from the primary school in Tanzania. It's really a beautiful message of joy, of inviting children to stay strong in solidarity, and is very much responding to the appeal of Opur in terms of dreaming together and staying strong together. So if you can also scroll back in the chat, I think that is very much a beautiful message of hope and resilience. And Hali, please, the voice of Yara, so that we can also hear from Sudan today.
Hello, my name is Yara. I'm 17 years old and I am from Sudan. International Peace Day is not just a word on a calendar for me. It's a memory of what I lost and a hope for what we must build together. I remember my friend Samuel. We dreamt of traveling the world together. She didn't survive the conflict. War steals your childhood and replaces it with different sets of basics. Childhood becomes about survival, not growth. You lose your sense of safety, your sense of normal, your sense of future. I survived, but survival is not enough. Every child deserves to thrive, to feel safe, and to dream. Peace means rebuilding schools, not just silencing guns. Peace means providing mental health support for children who have seen too much. Peace means providing education, so my story becomes rare, not common. And you, as leaders and stakeholders, hold the power to make this kind of peace a priority. We, the children who have seen war, are not just symbols of tragedy. We are proof of resilience, but we need you to match our resilience with your actions. Let's build a peace that lasts. Thank you.
So thank you, Yara, and I hope that today we can stand truth to your call and match your resilience with our actions. And to this, I would like to invite my colleague, Reverend Fred Nyabera, and other faith leaders from around the globe for the next segment of today's conversation. Fred, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you very much, Eleonora. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you may be joining us from. My name is Fred Nyabera. I'm the Executive Director at IGATO International and Child Poverty. And it is indeed my privilege and honor to moderate this dialogue with the faith actors. And as we start, we've had great testimonies and very moving testimonies today that reminds us that as we gather with one conviction, that no child should suffer the horrors of war that we've had and we've seen. Because children, as we've been told, are always the first ones to lose their homes, their schools, their families, and too often, even their lives. Yet they're the last ones to be heard in many forums and in many spaces that we have. And so I believe that this dialogue we have today is not just another dialogue, but it's a moral and spiritual summons to consciousness, to hope, and to action. And let me now introduce our distinguished discussants. With us today, we have Dr. Naila Tabara. Naila is the president of the Adian Foundation, Lebanon. With us, we also have Professor Nand Ramachan, Professor of Religion at St. Olaf University, USA. We have with us Reverend Volodymyr Malshin, Head of Infrastructure Development Department, Caritas in Ukraine. Each of the discussants will offer a brief reflection, maybe 3 to 4 minutes. And as they share, they will reflect on how our faith affirms every child's right to peace and protection, how leaders can reclaim their moral voice, as we've been reminded today that children have lost trust in us amid these atrocities, and what more we can do together across traditions to uphold the sacred dignity of every child. And to start us off will be Dr. Naila. Welcome, Dr. Naila.
Thank you, Fred. It's a bit difficult to speak about this subject as we are entering nearly 2 years, of genocide in Gaza, and it's only recently that it has been acknowledged that it's a genocide. And we know not only the number of deaths now that is increasing, but also the number of children who have lost their limbs. Alarming numbers saying that daily 10 children are losing their limbs in Gaza. And for the children who remain alive, I think they have been scarred for life. How can they continue living after all the brutality they have seen? And not only all the brutality, but also the silence. The worldwide silence. I know that today more and more we hear more and more voices, but it is the people in power who have failed the children and failed humanity, basically as a whole. I'm speaking of Gaza. I can speak also, of course, of the children of Lebanon, my own country. We've mentioned Sudan, DRC, other places in the world where we are failing. We are failing the children. And when I'm saying we, I mean all of us as humanity, but also we are here in a panel speaking of the role of religious leaders. And I think we are failing them because very few are the voices that are speaking up. If all the voices of religious leaders worldwide would have spoken up, the genocide in Gaza would not have been going on. If we had dared to stop and stand together, it wouldn't have. And especially Gaza, because in Gaza, it's a conflict where Western powers have been enabling Israeli powers, and we could have done influence on them. This is especially Gaza more than others, because in other places it is local populations backed by other countries or by money from other countries. But here it is really enabling. So we call it the litmus test of our humanity, and we've been failing them. I've been to many interfaith organizations or forums or groups, and we were very few voices speaking up. And that has been something that deeply hurts me as a person, but the humanity in me also. And I think what we need today, or what we needed yesterday and 2 years ago and all the time, is courage. Courage to speak up, courage to speak the truth, courage to educate ourselves when we are told that it is complicated, courage to follow up on issues, courage to understand nuances, to be able to speak up. This is the first thing. The second thing is that we need cross-communal solidarity. I go also to a lot of conferences worldwide, and it's very sad to see that mostly Muslims are speaking up for Gaza, Palestine, and left-wing groups. But we need everybody else to be speaking up. We have very few Christian voices speaking up for Palestine. Otherwise, we have Zionist Christians speaking up against. So we need to promote all the time cross-communal solidarity, being in solidarity with one another, the same way as all the people in the Middle East should have stood in solidarity with the Yazidis when they were being genocided. I want to also remind you that we are speaking about children now, but sometimes we only speak about children as if it's okay to kill the men and the women and the elderly. And sometimes we speak about women and children as if it's okay to kill the men. And this is something also we need to remember. One thing I would also like to point out is that sometimes we use pictures of beautiful children to get other people to feel with them. And it's as if the children who are not beautiful don't deserve to live. And this is very painful. With the children of Gaza, we also have felt sometimes that we needed to use pictures of animals, of cats, so that people would feel with them, because they would feel with cats more than they would feel with these children. And finally, I want to end on a note that this has shown us so much. I mean, me coming from Lebanon, it has shown us so much the double standards and the fact that everything we've been standing for about the equal value of human life, we have seen that it is not. We're seeing this everywhere in the world now. And it is our duty to speak up against everything that dehumanizes some people and renders some lives having a worth that is 1,000 times more than the other lives, be they children or grown-ups. And I will end here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Naila, for reminding us of our need for courage, communal solidarity, and reminding us of the sacredness of all humanity, men, women, children, and also reminding us to reclaim our moral voice over, to resist what is evil collectively. Thank you. We'll come back to you later on, Naila, and I'm sure there might be some questions or comments regarding your presentation and sharing today. But for now, I'm going to invite Professor Anand Ramachandran, friend, but also a member of Arigato International Advisory Group. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fred, and thank you, Naila, for those very moving words. And thanks to all of our presenters this morning. I truly struggled to decide what words to share with you today. I could easily speak theology or ethics, but I did not feel moved to do so. It didn't seem appropriate. So what I want to say is from my heart to your heart, heart to heart. My words are not in the nature of advice. I don't know how to describe them. I guess it's a lament, it's a cry. It's a meditation for what we have become as a species and what we do. And sometimes I know transformation begins with sorrow. We have to grieve what we do before we have any hope of change. This summer, our twin granddaughters, who are now 6 years old, visited and stayed with us for 3 weeks. I taught them much. I taught them to ride and balance on their bikes. And every waking moment was filled with unending, joyful play. They have now returned to their homes in San Francisco. But the sound of their laughter still reverberates in our home and in our hearts, in every culture and in every language. The laughter of children warms and fills our hearts with joy. And as I looked at my granddaughters riding their bikes carefree and without fear on the safe and quiet street in front of my home, I tried, but I could not imagine their laughter silenced or transformed into screams, crouching in fear as bombs fell on their homes. I could not imagine them, as I've seen, clutching dust-covered dolls, covering their ears to silence the horrible noise of war, and falling asleep exhausted from hunger and thirst. As much as I tried, I could not see them there. I could not imagine their childhood forcibly snatched from them by heartless adults. But I knew then and I know now that this is the reality for children across our world. Their homes are broken. As we have heard, their schools reduced to rubble. Their nights are filled with terror. The pain of hunger never goes away. They carry memories of things seen and heard that no child should ever carry. And yet at heart, they are no different from the granddaughters who came to play at my home and whom we tucked into bed every night and who we unceasingly hugged. How can we convince those who love their children and who direct weapons of war on other children that all children are our children? The children of our one world. How do we open their closed hearts? There is also something that we must not be afraid to name. It is not only bombs and bullets that harm children. It is our moral brokenness that allows such weapons to be built, sold, nation to nation, and used against children. And so I ask myself, as I ask all of you today, what have we become as a species of being? Who are we that we destroy without hesitation the most innocent and vulnerable, defenseless among us? That the tears, the screams, the terror, and the hunger of children do not reach our hearts? Who taught us to see our one world with such walls of division that the most horrific suffering of children in one part does not reach or touch our hearts? How did we so dehumanize our children that their suffering does not matter to us? Why do the tears of children not wash away the boundaries of nation religion, culture, and indifference? How have we learned to accept the suffering of children as the price of our conflicts? And from those of us who come from religious places of meaning, how do we take and utter the name of God, go to our places of worship, and be stone-hearted about the slaughter of children? Which God do we praise? Which God do we worship? If the precious lives of children do not stop wars, what will? So we should weep, we should cry, we should scream, not only for the children whose lives are shattered, but also for ourselves. That we have allowed our conscience, our hearts to grow so dull that we can turn away when the life of a child is shattered. So let us weep together, not only for the children whose lives are at this moment being destroyed, but also for our species, for our closed hearts that allow us to unleash bullets and bombs that shatter the bodies of children. I know that to end violence against children, we need more than policies. And I guess this is what my cry is. We need awakened hearts. Hearts that will not allow war to steal a child's laughter. Hearts that understand the sacredness of every child and their right to joy and to play. Hearts that are open to seeing every child as our child. And hearts that feel for every child as we feel for our own. I am truly grateful for each one of you here today, and for your hearts, the hearts of love that I know you bring to this campaign. It is in you I see the light of hope. And so how do we together, dear sisters and brothers, awaken the hearts of those who have the power to stop the bullets, to stop the bombs, to let the food trucks come in? How do we awaken those hearts? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Ramachan, for very personal testimony that you reminded us of many things: the need for lamentation before transformation, empathy as we try to put ourselves in the place of those that are suffering, especially children close to us, and seeing them in the context of conflict and violent conflicts. The moral brokenness that we need, great challenge, and awakened hearts that go beyond just the policies, and empathy. Thank you very much. We'll come back to this. Let me then lastly welcome Reverend Volodymyr to share with us an experience from Ukraine, but also his own reflections. We were also supposed to be having somebody from Sudan, but last minute he wasn't able to join us, but we stand with them in solidarity. Let me welcome Father Volodymyr.
Thank you, Fred. Dear friends, distinguished scholars, it's really an honor for me to be here with you on this panel. And to be honest, when I first saw the program, Stand Up Against War, I looked for Ukraine on the list. And at first I couldn't find it. And I asked myself, how can we talk about children of war globally without mentioning Ukraine, where a terrible war is depriving millions of children of their childhood for many years? So that is why I'm really grateful to the organizers, especially for Arigato International, for including Ukraine in this panel discussion, because without this, I think our discussion would be insufficient. And if it's possible, I would like to begin with a short 1-minute video. Can I ask organizers to play it now, if it's possible?
It's coming. Ali is working on projecting the video from Caritas, from Father Volodymyr from Ukraine.
Okay.
Ali, over to you. Okay, Father Volodymyr, it's taking some time to load. You can continue. We'll present it at the end of your intervention.
Okay, no problem. So before sharing my ethical deliberations on this topic, I would like to give you a brief context on what's going on in Ukraine. So the war in Ukraine began more than 11 years ago with Russia's annexation of Ukrainian peninsula Crimea and occupation of two eastern regions of Luhansk and Donetsk. In 2022, it turned into a full-scale Russian invasion aimed not just at seizing our land. We all know that Russia has more than enough territory, so it doesn't need more land. But actually, the aim of what they call special military operation was erasing Ukraine as a nation. So what we are living in Ukraine is similar to many other nations, and that is called a genocidal war. Indeed, a free and democratic Ukraine is seen as an existential threat to an imperial autocratic Russia. That's why we have this war and terrible consequences of this war. The result is, unfortunately, that children born between 2022 and 2024 have never seen a single day of peace. Can you imagine that? Their earliest memories are air raid sirens, bomb shelters, destroyed homes, ruined schools, and displacement within or outside of Ukraine. So let me share one of the stories from our Caritas work. Alexandra Starkova, 8 years old from Krasnopilya in northern Ukraine, her room should have been a safe place for play and dreams like many other children in the world. Instead, in March 2025, a guided bomb sent by Russians struck her yard, shattering windows and leaving toys covered with shards of glass. A month later, another bomb destroyed her home completely. So the family was forced to flee their hometown. They found a refuge in a city of Sumy, just 40 kilometers from the Russian border, where Caritas now supports them. And actually, this story and many other stories in Ukraine are not unique. They unfortunately are the daily reality of thousands, if not millions, of Ukrainian children. War has invaded the very heart of childhood. And let me share with you just a few facts about this terrible war. By early 2024, over 2,500 children have been officially confirmed as killed or injured, but actually the real number is likely much higher. 1 in 3 children has witnessed death or injury during the war. Many have lost parents or siblings. Millions of children are internally displaced or refugees. Displacement exposes them to risk of trafficking, abuse, forced labor, and exploitation. More than 1,600 schools have been damaged or destroyed. Can you imagine that? I guess some of the countries do not have that number of schools in the entire country. and we have lost more than 1,600 schools in this war. And obviously, as a result, mental health is severely affected. 1 in 3, especially teenagers, reports sadness and hopelessness that interferes with their daily life. 70% of children, and that is more than 3 million people, lack access to basic goods and services like clean water, heating, and health care. And perhaps the last fact, which is not very widely known in the world, but according to Yale researchers, up to 35,000 children may have been forcibly taken into Russia or Russia-controlled areas. Many are placed in camps, cut off from their families, and are subjected to indoctrination. So the cumulative effect of this war is poverty, displacement, trauma, and deprivation, which is creating the risk of a lost generation in Ukraine. So to respond to this very severe humanitarian crisis, Caritas Ukraine, along with other humanitarian organizations, are doing what they can. Caritas Ukraine has been working for more than 30 years in Ukraine, responding to various humanitarian situations, and it's one of the largest NGOs in Ukraine. So we work daily to restore dignity and hope to people in need. And our vision is very simple. Every child deserves a safe space to learn, to heal, and to dream. And let me give you just a few examples how we respond to this. We created over 40 child-friendly spaces all over Ukraine just to help children to find this safe space where they can play with other children, where they can communicate, where they can do extra curriculum classes. We have also created spaces of happiness, elaborated a number of psychosocial support programs. We are helping children, parents, helping them to deal with these serious crises. Caritas is not helping children survive, but also giving them tools to rebuild their future, and most important, to have hope for the future. And now, after sharing this context, a few words on ethical repercussions of this war. Dear friends, it's not enough to simply say, I stand up against war. To protect children like Alexandra or like Nicole we will see in the video, we must truly stand up with action, with solidarity, and with moral courage. As people of faith and consciousness, we cannot remain silent in the face of evil. And war is its most devastating form, of evil. I remember very well the words of my grandmother, who survived Second World War, and she said to me, I wish, kid, you never know what the war is like. She knew exactly that war destroys not only lives, but war destroys hope, dignity, and the very soul of humanity. War is a great evil, and we must stand up against it with all the strength of our voice, with our faith, and our action. Dear friends, I'm convinced it's not enough to speak in general terms. Like we are saying, war must be stopped. It doesn't work. Statements like this do not change anything. We must have the courage, on the other hand, to name the perpetrators and speak with one clear voice to those responsible, like President Putin. Stop killing Ukrainian children. Words like this are not polite or diplomatic, but they are a direct confrontation with those causing evil. We all know very well in Ukraine that drones and ballistic missiles are not flying on themselves because they just won't. There are real people behind who are pushing the buttons and who are giving the orders to do that. And there are people who are designating on the maps targets, and very often these are civilian targets like Ahmadiyyat Children's Hospital in Kiev, which was severely damaged. So my conviction is that only such clarity can break through the lies and indifference. And in fact, we have one positive example how it works. As you may know, the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant against Vladimir Putin for the illegal deportation and transfer of Ukrainian children to Russia. And this really matters a lot. It shows that the international community recognizes the truth. The abduction of thousands of children is not only immoral, but it is a war crime. It is a war crime. The warrant for us is not purely symbolic like many other declarations by prestigious world organizations, but it is a concrete act of global justice. It sends a message that even the most powerful cannot act with impunity when children's lives are at stake. And for us, it's also a sign of hope that justice and truth will prevail. So to conclude, my dear friends, my message is very simple. Without accountability, all other declarations remain only words. So let me reiterate this once again. Without accountability, all other declarations remain only words. Every child is created in the image of God and carries sacred dignity. They deserve not only to survive, but to live, to learn, to laugh, and to dream. So may God strengthen our common efforts to protect the children of the world, especially those trapped in war. And let us remember the words of Jesus. Whatever you have done to the least of these little ones, you have done it to me. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Father Volodymyr. Your testimony from Ukraine is a sobering reminder that war is not an idea, but a daily reality for children. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. Please keep on communicating on the chat box. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, we will make sure that we have these and respond in one way or another. But what we've heard from this session is clear. Children are not collateral, they are sacred. Secondly, silence in the face of their suffering is not an option. Thirdly, solidarity across traditions is both possible and necessary. Our moral voice must be louder than the voices of wars that we are talking about today. And standing up for children in war is not charity. It is justice. It is faith in action. Thank you very much. And I hand over back to Eleonora.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Neyla. Thank you, Professor Anand. Thank you, Father Volodymyr. I think those words and those sharings really touched our hearts, our humanity, and I think really spoke to all of us and to the call really to stand up and to really shake the fundamentals of who we are and to maybe refine ourselves so that we can really see what has gone wrong and why this is happening. I think as part of this campaign, some of you know, because there are over 145 organizations that have joined hands and have signed and endorsed the statement of the Stand Up campaign. But we thought it was as a culmination today of this online gathering, we thought that it was important to read these statements. And we have Frederic and Bushra today that are ready to share the statement with us. Frederic Seidel is the Senior Program Lead for Children and Climate at the World Council of Churches, and Bushra Riham is the Global Child Protection and Inclusive Advisor at Islamic Relief Worldwide. So Bushra and Frederic, the floor is yours for the statement, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As religious communities, international organizations, civil society, and people of goodwill, we stand together to raise an urgent alarm about the suffering of children in war, to reaffirm the sanctity and value of their lives, to uphold their human dignity, and to demand protection for these most innocent, vulnerable, and precious members of every community. The continued violations of international humanitarian law and human rights law are not isolated incidents. They reflect a broader and alarming erosion of the shared moral norms that faith communities long advocated for and helped inspire. Across traditions, sacred texts, prayers, and practices remind us that the protection of the vulnerable and the pursuit of peace are shared ethical imperatives. Long before humanitarian and human rights law were codified, faith and moral values called us to be compassionate, to protect the vulnerable, restore relationships, uphold human dignity, and promote the right to life. Childhood is a journey of growth, identity, and belonging. When a child is forced to flee, to bury a parent, or to endure hunger or injury, that journey is broken. Beyond the immediate suffering lies often overlooked and yet devastating consequences: malnutrition and the weaponization of food, collapsing health systems, spread of disease, and disrupted humanization, toxic stress and other mental health problems, interrupted learning, stunted development, and early marriage, and the fragmentation of communities that dissolves trust and solidarity and imperils our common future, the future of our children. Today, grave and proliferating breaches of international humanitarian law and human rights law, including the direct targeting of children, their schools, the hospitals where they are cared for, and the shelters where they hope to find refuge, are deeply alarming and risk becoming normalized. This must end. We cannot be silent. Change is possible, rooted in the moral teachings of our faith and the universal legal principles meant to secure peace and justice. We believe that international organizations, local communities, and children themselves can be agents of healing and transformation. We believe in the power of hope, solidarity, awareness, and consciousness, acknowledging both the call to raise awareness in society and the call to speak and act from our own conscience as guides for collective responsibility and action. Together, we can prevent violence, raise awareness about its devastating impact, and foster spaces for dialogue and mutual understanding that can help change the course of history. For the sake of our children, we must act.
Therefore, on the International Day of Peace 2025, we jointly call upon states and political leaders to 1. Honor legal obligations and uphold international humanitarian law and international human rights law that protect us all from violence and abuse, especially against children in times of war. 2. Advocate for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire in all conflict zones, urging all parties to prioritize dialogue and peaceful resolution, and to take urgent steps towards de-escalation to protect children and civilians. 3. Protect children from harm and all forms of violence, in compliance with Article 38 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which obliges states to take all feasible measures to protect and care for children affected by armed conflict. This includes preventing the collapse of public health systems and ensuring safe and unimpeded delivery of food, clean water, medical assistance, and mental health and psychosocial support. 4. Respect and protect education and health facilities. Refrain from their use for military purposes. Enable safe, sustained learning for displaced and refugee children. 5. Support transparent monitoring reporting, and accountability mechanisms for grave violations against children, and impunity, and promote justice, dialogue, and reconciliation through time-bound action plans in line with international frameworks. 6, address the diverse root causes of violent conflict, including but not limited to those linked to resource scarcity, displacement, global warming, and other social, political, and economical factors. We also call upon religious leaders and faith communities to 1, raise consciousness and challenge the normalization of such unconscionable violations against children. Let your churches, temples, mosques, synagogues, and sacred spaces resound with the call for peace. 2, collaborate with other faith communities and international and civil society organizations to promote holistic and coordinated responses for children and families affected by war, grounded in the do no harm principles. 3, create safe spaces for children to speak and be heard. Let their lived realities guide our common action. 4, speak with one voice against violence, dehumanization, and hate, and actively engage congregations and governments in calls for an end to hostilities and for accountability. And 5, advocate for the restoration of a moral social contract, one that centers empathy, justice, and the inherent dignity of every child. We choose conscience over indifference, hope over despair, and ethical action over silence. We stand up for children in war. I would personally like to underline the urgency of tackling the root causes, and as Anand Rambajan said, that the root of all is the hardening of our human hearts. Let us work together on implementing this important statement.
There's a saying that when elephants fight, the grass underneath is the one that gets damaged.
كل أهل استشهد ماما وبابا وأخواتي كله معبد هو استشهد فأنا طلعت منهم الوحيدة.
Children in war zones is unimaginable. Yet subjected to forced recruitment, displacement, and the loss of their own families.
La guerre vole l'enfance. Les enfants perdent leur famille, leur école, leur sécurité. اشتقت إنه نرجع على دارنا ونروح نلعب ونرجع لقرايتنا. ليش ترجع لأمها؟ نلعب في المنتزه مثلا. نرجع.
Families like this are struggling to survive. Parents are going days without eating, and thousands of children have been admitted to treatment of acute malnutrition.
These are not just statistics. These are lives destroyed, childhood stolen, children's dreams and hopes killed.
Action is demanded at every level. That action has to come from our conscience, but it also must come from deep understanding of the impact of conflicts amongst children.
The state is a major source of violence and must not escape moral scrutiny and accountability.
Even wars have rules. We have international humanitarian laws, the Geneva Conventions, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and other protocols.
As advocates, we have a moral obligation to name the governments and systems responsible for these atrocities.
Religious leaders still have the obligation
to constantly provide the moral message and challenge and awaken the conscience of society as a whole.
People of faith have a key role to play in demanding the protection of children in war, ensuring humanitarian access and assistance to conflict-affected communities.
I would like the readers to remember that children are not soldiers, they are not targets, they are not the weapons of war.
So my hope is that every child everywhere can wake up safe, go to school, learn freely, and dream without a fear.
Let us honor the sacred trust of childhood by refusing to forsake them.
مش خايف من الحرب ولا مع أصحابي ولا بالعادي وأنا كويس وبطل أسمع صوت الطيارات.
On International Day of Peace, let each and every one of us stand up for children in war.
We must all stand together and say, stop the war on children.
Thank you, everyone. And I think before we close today, I would like to call Dr. Vinu Aram to get us together and close this sharing, these reflections, and this very rich moment of hope, of sharing, of sorrow as well. So, Dr. Vinu, over to you.
Thank you, Eleonora. I struggle the same way as Anand to find the right words to share what I feel. I hear when Ananya says clearly, I haven't forgotten the pain that came in the midst of an earthquake for children. I hear Chinmayan, and Chinmayan telling us, we did not start this war, then why should we be at the receiving end of pain and suffering? I hear our child representatives from around the world saying, I've lost everything. My father, my mother, my world. But I also remember as we conclude, Eleonora, as you rightly say, this moment of hope, I also hear the mother who stood at the clinic of Shanti Ashram and was living with HIV for over 2 decades saying, I have to live because my child needs a future. This is what I feel at the end of these 2 hours. We need each other, not just for the light that we bring to one another, not just for the work that we do together, but for us to believe and believe again that what we do matters and that our calls will be heard and that together we can build a better world for our children. When children stand in front of us, hope is the light that we want to hold on to. Building that active hope probably is one way that we can help one another in these difficult times. Society in its many faces, from our little homes where families want to be together to nurture their children, to nations where we look at the government as an upholder of rights, as an upholder of the best that the constitutions of their nations present to their people, but also as bearers of a shared global legacy. We have to remember that when we fail our children, we all fail together. And therefore, the same voice that questions and demands is the same voice that calls for solidarity and collaboration. 140 organizations have come together to say, we will stand up for our children in conflict. Our colleagues read out the joint statement. I remember many years ago, a religious leader corrected me when I kept saying advocacy, advocacy, advocacy for children. He said, Vinu, will you please use the word conscientization instead of advocacy? Today, as we all gather here for this campaign to which we have lent our voice, to which we have lent our cooperation, may we remember that conscience that can hold us accountable to what we can live up to. In the lives of children, we find both what we can do, but also where we have failed. And therefore, in campaigns like this, we help one another to deepen our understanding. As I heard Dr. Mustafa Ali's panel and our colleague from Bangladesh telling us that 52% of the refugees are made up of children, we are reminded again of the scale of suffering that surrounds us. When I heard Professor Anand Rambachan speak and challenge us and ask us to think why we who love our own children can't love all children equally, I'm reminded of the beauty of language and of deep tradition that has always told us to speak of children as our children. But when we fail, in reality, we also sometimes hold on desperately to the ideal, remembering that we can rise and rise again, remembering that we can call upon one another to stand. Dr. Naila Jabara told us not only about the brutality, about the pain, the suffering that has taken time for the world to acknowledge of children in Gaza, but children in Ukraine, children in Sudan, everywhere. Dr. Naila said, silence is also a legacy that we don't want to give our children. Being silent when pain and suffering surrounds us in the most dehumanizing form. So, brothers and sisters, all our institutions that are part of the campaign and all the institutions that we can work together with, this is a moment to rededicate ourselves to the theme of the International Day of Peace 2025, action now. That action can be our collective demand, our collective commitment, but also simple, humble, but powerful gesture of doing everything we can do for our children. May we remember the words of our young friend from Sudan who said, my childhood was stolen. Don't see us only as images of tragedy and pain, also see us as images of resilience and hope. It is that word, it is that phrase that I want to leave you with. For I know all of you are committed. I know all of you will read the statement deeply, for it carries our collective commitment. But I want us to remember that we are not alone in this suffering, that we can work together and demand constantly of our governments to do better. To the Arigato International family, thank you for convening all of us at a time where the world is speaking of suffering, where headlines are dominated by destruction. We also speak about hope. For children not only learn from our modeling, children also learn from our struggles. And if they can find that sincerity in our struggles, in our calls, in our collaborative action, I think we will give them a chance to see that the ideal can also be the real. So on behalf of all the collaborating organizations, our colleagues in the UN, the many countries that have come here together, and each one of us who have committed ourselves to building a peaceful world, may this week, this campaign, this joint statement be a reminder of what we can do, but also a source of solace and strength so that we will not feel that we cannot do and this situation is not unchangeable. We have to do it for our children. As that mother said, my child is my today, but my child is also my future. So to the 2 billion children of the world and to all of us who believe in peace, may this campaign be a reminder of the power of the collective and the power that comes from doing something, but also thinking together and praying together for a peaceful world. Thank you again for patiently joining us for 120 minutes. I will leave you with the words of Mahatma Gandhi. If you want real peace in the world, we have to begin with children. May I invite you for just a few seconds of silence so that we can gather ourselves and what we have thought about, reflected, listened to in these 120 minutes and go forward with hope that we can do better for our children. Allow me to invite you to stand up and to stand up for our children in conflict with the call for peace from this part of the world where 500 million children are looking to us expectantly. Please stand up wherever you are, if you can, for this second to stand up for our children. Oh, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you, Maria Lucia. Thank you to the entire Arigato team for bringing us together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So hope is the light that we want to hold on. And thank you for joining. And we will continue to work together and be together. And
thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you. Obrigada.
Thank you.
Shukran.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Shukran.
Thank you.
Thank you.
bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye. Bye.
Ma c'è una bambina?
Qui ci sono delle bambine, se la volete vedere.
Bye, Nanya.
Rania si chiama.
Bye, Maria.
Bye, Maria. Maria.
مين هاي حلو؟ مين هاي حلو؟ يلا مع
في ولاد
السلامة.
قولوا لهم باي، قولوا لهم باي.
يلا قول لهم باي.
ليش ما بدي؟
انت تعرفي هم
باي باي.
هاي في بنوتة بابا.
هاي بنوتة. بحب اسم بنوتة. شو اسمها؟
شو اسمها؟ شو اسمك؟ شو اسمك عمو؟
شو اسمك؟
زعلانة بنوتة.
زعلانة.
نروح نلعب معها؟
باي نانيا. Good night.
يلا يعطيكم العافية. Thank you for this productive meeting.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a nice.
Thanks to the interpreters too.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you for the interpreters. Sorry for running longer.
Thank you so much. Take care, Nanya.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you,
Well,
Nanya.
thank you for joining today.
Thank you, Hossein.
Bye.
Bye. Quello che mi hai detto bye?
Quella era che nella conferenza che stavo parlando, quella era del lingue.
Time to finish the session, otherwise it is open for all participants who are still connected. So the host should finish now.